Hi, so welcome back to our podcast series. I've got Tom from Winning Performance here, and I'm going to call back on a blog he wrote back in July of last year, and he's going to explain why it's such a pertinent time for him. The blog is entitled Creating the Perfect Sleep Pattern. We're going to get Tom to explore a little bit about why sleep is so important and some of his tips and thoughts and so on having better sleep. So Tom, welcome.
Hello.
Tell us why July, first of all, was a key point as to writing the article.
July's a key point. I think it was mid-July I wrote it, something like that. And in mid-April, April 18th, I better get the date right because my wife keeps on having a go at me for getting the wrong date. April 18th, my darling daughter was born. So what's that, April, May, June? 3 months. So it's funny because until you're in it, unless you sign up for a sleep deprivation study, the next best thing obviously being have a kid, you have no idea what poor quality sleep is like. And again, it's all to do with perception, because I've gone from 8 to 9 hours of really good sleep. I wouldn't wake up once, I'd wake up energized, ready to go, to just broken sleep. Initially, I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd tend to Jazzy with Katie, but I don't have boobs, so I can't feed her, so I was pretty useless, so I just stopped getting up, but I'd still wake up. And even just broken sleep, even just a little bit of a quick wakening when you hear Jasmine, your daughter, screaming, is enough to throw the whole body off kilter. So by the end of the year, I was in a complete... You end up like a zombie, and you get used to it. It's amazing what the body can adapt to. But obviously I'm not going to be at a peak level of performance. I noticed my recall wasn't as good. Training was good, because I was only really training one lift. And obviously I hit a few records. Maybe I could have got more, don't know. Irrelevant. But you have no idea until you go from good to bad. And it's all to do with perception. Just because you think you have good sleep doesn't mean it is. A lot of the time we do questionnaires with people, and it turns out that their sleep quality is really poor. You could ask them beforehand, how do you think your sleep is? And they'll be like, oh, it's great, brilliant. But when you get down to the nitty gritty and you check a few things, it's really not. So again, it's like we talk about perception with the sensitivities last time. You don't know you're sensitive to a food until you take it out and maybe reintroduce it.
Yeah.
It's the same with sleep. So yeah, I've been in a sleep deprivation study for the last 9 months. Essentially.
So what would you say is a good night's sleep? How would
How
I
long?
know? Well, just in terms of how would I feel when I wake up after a good night? Then it
You
sounds
should
a
wake
simple
up
question.
alert and ready to go. You get some of these people that say they're not morning people. A lot of them are not sleeping deeply enough. So the three first questions I go through with sleep is: do you struggle falling asleep? Do you wake up during the night? And do you struggle waking up? Struggle falling asleep is indicated by not being able to fall asleep within 5 to 10 minutes. A lot of people get to bed and all of a sudden their mind starts racing. Those kind of people struggle to fall asleep. Literally, head on pillow, within 5 minutes you should be out. Waking up, you should not wake up during the night. We're talking, you fall asleep, 8 to 9 hours later, you wake up. And I think the research is probably between 7 to 9. I'm talking optimal. 8 to 9 is optimal. A lot of people are okay on 7. We can talk about that a bit later. But you shouldn't wake up once. A lot of people, you'd be surprised at what your body gets used to. So biologically, people are used to waking up. Okay, you get people that come back and go, well, I have to wake up because I need to pee. Okay, no, you should be sleeping through that. It's a definite indicator you're not sleeping deeply enough. You'd be surprised at what your body adapts to, meaning your body is used to waking up at X time and going to pee. Think about it during the day. How often do you go during the day 5-6 hours without maybe needing to pee or go to the toilet? You probably will at some point in that kind of period. And it's the same thing. Because you haven't slept deeply enough, you've woken up, you do need to pee. It's quite normal. In the morning you should get up and go and empty your bowels because you've been asleep for 8 to 9 hours. Pretty normal. So you're definitely not sleeping deeply enough and you shouldn't need to pee. And I think I wrote it in the article, but I just encourage clients, look, if you wake up, your body's telling you to pee, ignore it, go back to sleep. I haven't had anybody come back to me and say that they wet the bed or they needed to buy plastic sheets.
Right.
Maybe they're embarrassed, but it hasn't happened yet. But you kind of need to reteach yourself.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at what the mind and body gets you, or the nervous system gets used to. And then so falling asleep, staying asleep. Yeah, waking up. You should be waking up. And the way I explain it to clients, I go, do you wake up with 9 out of 10, 10 being optimal, 9 out of 10 levels of alertness? Are you awake? Are you ready to go? 5 minutes maximum of and get up, bomb. But you should literally be up, gone.
Okay. No need for a coffee.
Coffee shouldn't be needed. I'm not against coffee. Again, there's a coffee article, Coffee Rules, I think it's called. Definitely not against coffee, but it shouldn't be used to wake you up. If you're using it as an ergogenic aid for training, I see the benefit. But if you have to have the coffee, no, that's not a good sign.
Okay. So sleep itself, why is it so important?
As we were discussing just before, it is easier and quicker to list the things it's not good for. Okay. There's a great book. Is it Walker? Roger Walker? Not Roger Walker. Roger Walker's one of my wife's friends, actually. Different person. Something Walker. Matthew Walker?
I think it's Matthew Walker.
Matthew Walker. We'll stick with that. Matthew Walker. Why We Sleep. And he explains in his introduction or wherever that sleep, it has a 100% return on investment. If you improve sleep, it will have a 100% return on investment for all biological functions. So good sleep, or improving your sleep quality or quantity, whichever element you need, has a 100% return on investment and is beneficial for 100% of your body's functions. So there isn't a single case study where improving sleep is not going to help.
But sadly, there appears to be this perception that sleep is a waste of time.
Oh yeah, because we're stuck in that period of do more.
Yeah.
And I was in that period. I was working 6:30 a.m. till 9 p.m. Monday to Friday. Saturday I was working again, maybe 7, 8 until usually anywhere between 12 and 2. I would sleep the rest of that Saturday and then do all the admin on Sunday. And we're in that rat race where it's like more because it's cool. It's great. People should post on their social media. It's 4 a.m. and I'm awake and I'm doing this and I'm killing it. But you don't necessarily need to do that. I'm at a point now where I'm actually getting more out of doing less. I think the tide will change. I think everything revolves around trends, and I think it will probably be cooler to do less.
Yeah.
In the near future, I'm definitely seeing the benefit. I can't lie that I did benefit from doing so much work and getting stuck in, but I also got burnt out. I literally fell out of love with training people because I was doing way too much, and I couldn't be in the gym for long. I can't do it. I cannot see somebody 4 times a week. I'll be like, this is frustrating. It's probably why I'm a better online coach at the moment, because I don't see people. I have to chat to them online. It's easier. I know, but I'm getting back in love with training and seeing people progress. But doing the whole too many hours, not sleeping at all, is counterproductive. You cannot function at your best. What is the point in sleeping less and then being at your output therefore being 60%?
Okay.
My opinion nowadays, or it's always been that, it's been an ethos. Is quality over quantity. I'm definitely finding that now. I can structure my work week, know exactly what I need to prioritise, and anything else that I do at the end of the week is a bonus. Otherwise, I'm spending time with family.
And that ties in with the quality of the sleep, then giving you much more higher quality deliverables during your day.
It's exactly that. I won't even write a program if I don't feel on point. Which is difficult because of Jasmine waking up, but I just see that sleep is such a paramount quality. It is the base of the pyramid.
Right.
It's one of the first things we go over with clients. We obviously question them when they come in. We obviously look at nutrition, but they're quite surprised when we look at sleep. Some are hesitant to really look at it, but you show them the article, you put the science behind it, and it's just like it's a no-brainer. Sleep is free. And it has 100% return on investment. So why would you not try and improve it?
And people just seem to take it for granted. This must be a huge frustration.
It is. And I had a client, and he said he had a friend who was doing, I don't know what you call biphasic sleeping. So he would sleep for 4 hours, then work for 8 and 4 hours, and just keep that kind of cycle going.
Okay.
Which I think is stupid, because you can't restore everything. I think the first 4 hours, the recovery process is aimed more at your psychological well-being. So the recovery process, the first 4 hours of sleep is aimed at restoring the brain and nervous system. After that, it then restores other things like muscle tissue and looks at the organs. So it's psychological impact the first 4 hours, and then physiological impact the next 4 hours. If you're sleeping 4 then doing 8, you're not getting the physiological recovery.
Interesting. Okay.
So I don't get. Another thing I don't get is like the different time zones. People, I'm coming around because I think some people's time zones are a little bit different. I think it might be from when you. I don't look at it as genetic. I think that's a lot of shit. I think it's based on when you were put to bed as a kid. So I was put to bed as a kid 6 to 7 p.m. For whatever age, and I remember this, and no problem with it. Which means I'm probably used to going to bed earlier, which means I'll wake up earlier. Other people, I think night owls and larks, different times, and I'm not buying into that. I think it's based on when your parents put you to bed and how long you sleep. So for me, optimal is 8 till 4 for me. When everything's peaking and I'm getting good sleep, 8 till 4. I go to bed at 8. And I have no problem with that. Between 8 and 9, I will wake up between 4 and 5, raring to go.
Okay. The counter argument I've heard to that is whether it was environment, is that if you had a cave full of people, to actually have larks and owls gave you better protection for the entire
so like
family.
watching out in case of predators.
Yes, it sort of spread the load of the sleep so that the entire tribe wasn't asleep at the same time.
But again, that's just it's not genetics though, is it? It's just a case of when you go to sleep. So I agree with that, and I can see that argument and I can understand that, and I'm a bit more laid back with that, and used to be like, look, you should be in bed between 9 and 10. So I think some people just have a little bit of a swing.
And I think what you're saying, and you're going to talk a bit more about it later, about habits, and it's actually the building that habit and taking that time to create that habit. That's
for me, I mean, a lot of the talk over the recent years has been about quantity of sleep, but I think more of it's now switching towards quality. So how can you improve somebody sleeping deeper? Sometimes clients are not willing to change their schedule, so they go, my sleep window is 11 p.m. until 5 a.m. I'm not giving you any more. Sometimes I can squeeze an extra half an hour out. Maybe either side, that gives me an extra hour, that gives me 7, but a lot of the time people won't move on it, which is fine. They're only going to give me that. I now need to improve the sleep depth, and still we see an improvement in results.
And you think at optimum is around about the 8 hour?
8 to 9 is what Walker talks about, and he talks about a variety of studies in different continents. So he's looking at different places and going, look, most of the research is pointing optimal is between 8 and 9.
Okay.
It's not dose dependent, meaning going over 9 is not better, which is why it was really interesting to hear your comment on Paula Radcliffe. It's actually worse, and I've seen that in people. I've seen that in the family member. My mother, she would sleep more, and I think it was one of the many factors that led to ill health for her.
So the Paula Radcliffe story goes that when she was training at her best and she broke the women's world marathon record, she was taking 14 hours sleep a day, not all at once. She would have a night's sleep, she would train hard in the morning, she would sleep for a period around lunchtime, and then train hard again in the evening. That's the highest amount of sleep I've ever heard anybody. She was an extraordinary athlete.
I mean, is it the volume? Did she do that over a period of years and built up to 14 hours? Was it easy for her to get 14 hours? I don't know. I've never heard of that. That is such an amazing amount of sleep.
It was certainly done pre-children, so
I'd
be interested to
it's always done pre-children.
It's
always done. I think the most I would have had would be 10 consistently, because I would get 8 to 9 hours at night, and then I'd have a nap during the day. I've been quite good at napping. I've napped anywhere between literally 5 seconds and an hour, and then the hyperbaric chamber naps are the ones that are amazing. James talks about them. Hyperbaric nap, chamber naps, what he calls it, because you're getting the influx of oxygen. You can't do anything else in it, and you're lying down so you sleep. But napping, I think, is a skill, and I know we're going all over the place a little bit, but. Napping's something that everyone should try and buy into, even if you just do it once or twice on the weekend. I cannot convince my wife to try and start napping, and I get it, because some people nap and they go, oh, I nap and I wake up and I feel groggy. Okay, that happens all the time. You might have been in a deep sleep cycle and you woke up in the middle of that and you feel groggy because of that. But once you get up, if you just bully yourself it takes 5, maybe 10 minutes for that groggy feeling to disappear, and then all of a sudden you're on top of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you literally, my wife, she'll notice me nod off, and then I'll snore, wake myself up, and I go, oh, good, I'm better to go.
Ready to go, yeah.
And
okay.
They called them genius naps. Was it Benjamin Franklin, I believe, used to do it?
Did he? Okay.
There was a painter, I don't want to say it's Vincent van Gogh or Van Gogh, whatever you want to call him, but said painter would put paintbrush in his mouth.
Okay.
When he felt like he was going to drop off, when he felt that his stroke wasn't so good. As soon as obviously he dropped off, his mouth would open and paintbrush would hit him, wake him up, and that was enough for him to then continue painting. And it sounds completely backwards, and it shouldn't help, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you get into a meditative state.
Yeah.
There's an area, like just before you fall off to sleep, there's a certain brainwave state. I don't know whether it's delta or theta. I think delta's the fast and theta's the slow. I think it's theta state. So your brainwave goes into that state just before you have like semi-consciousness.
Okay.
And if you get into that state, it's very, very energizing when you come out of that state for the brain. So I think that's essentially what's happening there. Sounds unbelievable, but if you can get into the habit, basically I would just say get into the habit of finding time when you can nap. Give yourself an hour. So if you run over, you've got no problems.
Yeah.
Don't give yourself a 5-minute window. And if you only get 5 minutes, don't look at it as, oh, I only got 5 minutes. Look at it as you got some sleep.
There's your bonus.
Yeah.
Okay. Something I've experienced when I'm training very hard is actually almost sounds counterintuitive, that I would expect to sleep very heavily.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality for me is that I actually sleep worse after I've trained hard.
It'll be your nervous system firing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still in a sympathetic nervous system dominance. So I've noticed that with like people that come here and do the day cures. Have you heard of the day cure?
No.
It's a whole day of lifting.
Okay.
It's one, again, Charles Poliquin's brainchild. There are strength ones, there are body composition ones. Again, there's an article on the website that I give you all of them. But people after that you'd think a day of lifting, I'm knackered, I'm going to sleep, but they don't, because they've been firing their nervous system all day. It's on, and what it's called stressed and wired is normally what people call it. And there are various adaptogens you can take to calm your adrenals and get you out of that state and into a parasympathetic dominance, which is obviously when you're winding down, you're in rest and digest. So I would look at it from a nutritional point of view.
Okay.
I would figure out what you need to take post workout, what you need to take in the evening to bring that down when you're in that heightened state or higher volume periods, because you're not going to be in that high volume period year round, are you?
No.
You're going to be in and out. The biggest one, which again is mentioned in the article, it's one of the ones that kind of does a lot of stuff, is inositol.
Okay.
That should give you enough fuel to reset and wind down.
So we're starting to touch on some of the ways of helping.
Yes.
And in the blog you talk about 3 areas, and the 3 areas are environment, habits and nutrients. I'm going to give you some cues because I know you're pretty tired yourself today. so I don't
literally said to John before we started this that I could have done with a nap.
Yes. So
but we'll do the podcast instead.
So let's look at environment, and the 4 areas that we can cover here is darkness, cool, electronics, and being earthed.
Sure.
Do you want to expand more on the environment?
So again, if we go back and if you forget all of those elements, the best way to think about it is, can you create a cave-like environment? So a cave is dark, cool, there's no electronics, and you are earth because you're on the floor. Darkness, the biggest thing is purchasing and then installing blackout blinds.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got my pro tip for this now, because I wanted to purchase a blackout blind for my daughter, because obviously I want her to develop and grow and sleep well. Not that she does that most of the time. My pro tip for that is you can go on Amazon and you can buy ones that you can just stick on the window. My sister told me about it, which you can then take with you should you go travelling a lot. So not every hotel is going to have a blackout blind.
Mm-hmm.
Not every family's house will have that, but they're little suction pads that you just stick on the window, and it fits any window because you can fold it up and it's got Velcro. It's very, very clever. But darkness is key. The key element is your eyelids are very thin,
mm-hmm.
so the light gets through your eyelid, then it gets through your eye, goes through your optic nerve, and into the brain, which then essentially wakes you up.
Mm-hmm.
So light is energizing, so it is going to activate and speed processes up. So it's going to get into you and wake you up. So darkness is the biggest one. It's paramount importance. Everything from the window, which is what we're going to use the blackout blind for, to the base of your door,
mm-hmm.
should there be light outside. So the base of the door, obviously if you're in bed, you're going to be turning the light off on the landing or whatever, I'd hope. But then maybe light comes in from there. It's all these small things. But it's just a case of testing it. When you go to bed, turn everything off.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see anything? Even up to the small LED diode on an electronic, should you have that on. So again, I have clients, this is point number 3, no electronics. I have clients, I have TVs in the room and other things. And that is fine, but my it's a really easy argument. If you're asleep, can you use the TV?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's impossible. So turn it off at the wall.
Yeah.
You're not using it, it's not hard to turn off at the wall, or the button, so it's completely off.
Because those little LEDs are amazingly bright.
Yeah.
Even though they're so small.
Go to a hotel. I go so far as I get told off by the landlord. I don't care so much because he only checks the place once every 3 or 6 months. But I put black electrical tape over the fire alarms because they blink. You ever been to a hotel and they blink all night?
Yeah.
It's just the most frustrating thing.
Mm-hmm.
I go around and I turn everything off because there's so many. You can't turn the fire alarm off or do that in a hotel, but you can make the most of it, turning the TVs and things off at the wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, electronics, you can't use them. They shouldn't be in there. I know people use their mobile phone. Mobile phones emit a frequency. Some phones even emit a frequency when they're off. Again, you can't use it. It shouldn't be in there. Get it out.
Mm-hmm.
If you need it, I have people that are addicted to it. They won't admit it. That's a completely different problem.
Yeah.
You have to obviously accept that and get it out. But once you wake up, you can go out. You can get your phone. But you ever seen when I used to scroll on social media, you'd wake up and it'd be said status from Joe Schmo saying, "I can't sleep."
Yeah.
You've just been on your phone. You've just woken yourself up. Light has just gone into your retina and caused you to wake up. It's the worst thing you can do.
Yes.
But yeah, it's I tell clients it should be out the room, downstairs. Charles used to say 4 meters away. Things and tips like that. But
Mm-hmm.
there's no electronics in the room.
And
The bedroom should be for 2 things: sleeping, and you can work out the other one.
Enough sleeping. And things like the old digital clocks with the
Yes.
green lights and things like
So
that.
if you get a battery operated alarm clock, it should dim during the
Mhm.
night, and then obviously they usually have a light up switch. Because I have one of those, that's fine. Small battery operated alarm clock, that's the only thing you should really have in there.
That probably leads on to the earthing concept
Yes,
as well.
so I was put on to earthing 6-7 years ago, and I know Lance Armstrong used a lot of things to enhance his performance, but this was one of them, and it was one of the many things that was in front of the curve of, and I have seen literature on it. Just living causes inflammation, and this can help reduce inflammation in the body. That's probably the main benefit, and I have noticed the benefit. Whether it's somatic or not, I don't care. I notice the benefit. There is various research on it. Being grounded with the earth, when you walk barefoot on grass, you do feel better. You can feel it,
Mm-hmm.
and it just replicates that. It's an easy argument. If we're sleeping 8 hours, we're sleeping 1/3 of our life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an easy investment. I put a lot of investment into an earthing sheet, which it's not cheap because obviously it's a sheet, but once you've bought it, it's what I call one and done. Once it's bought, you don't have to buy another one.
And that just
Right.
fits on top of the mattress.
Yeah, you can get all sorts of sizes. If you need to be more cost sensitive, price sensitive, then there are ones which are just mats. I have an earthing mat underneath my desk.
Mm-hmm.
I've been known to put my head on it and nap, and my naps feel better from doing that. And I'm talking, you can see the floor in here, John. It's not exactly soft.
Mm-hmm.
I nap better on that than I will out on the gym floor.
Okay.
Again, whether it's somatic or not, I couldn't tell you. We haven't done scientific research. I don't care.
And cost-wise, I had a quick scan before we came in here,
Yeah.
and you're looking at between 50 and 100 quid.
Yeah, And some people that's a stretch, and I get that. But again, you can save, you can budget, you can plan it, and once it's done, it's on. You forget about it. You don't have to do anything.
Once and this is something you're using every night of your life.
Exactly right. You buy one for the rest of your life, and it's job done. But there is various research on it reducing and helping circadian rhythms, reducing your cortisol late at night, and reducing inflammation.
Wi-Fi
is terrible. It's the same thing as the phone, and the emittance from the phone. But again, we have some clients who have Wi-Fi in their room, and it's the worst place. Worst place it could be. Again, my argument's simple: you can't use it while you're in your room, while you're asleep. So I recommend you turn it off at the wall, and then you'll save yourself what, £10 a year or something. I know it's only £10, but you're still saving.
Things like jet lag. How does that fit in? You got any tips on recovery?
Tips on jet lag. I believe there's an article. The biggest thing is, so the first thing is mindset. I'm not sure that was in the article, but the first thing is mindset. I've never experienced, inverted commas, jet lag. Either end, going west or east. Fine. I know I haven't been to Australia and back, but I've been, I don't know what, Maldives and back, Dubai and back, so fairly LA and back. So fairly decent distances in different time zones, 5 hours or so. Never experienced jet lag. As soon as I get on the plane, I don't have a watch anymore, I don't wear a watch, but I get into whatever the next time zone I'm flying to, their time, immediately. So as soon as we take off, if I'm going to Vegas, I'm on Vegas time. Okay, so I set my mindset for that. So I then change my meals. That's the easiest way. It's cost effective. There's nothing planned in that. Yeah. So you would change your meal timing and eat as and when you're going to eat as if you're in Vegas. Then when you get to Vegas or you come back, I use melatonin is probably the most, if I'm going to use one supplement, liposomal melatonin will be the best bang for your buck.
Okay.
I don't like the capsules. You need to use more milligrams of melatonin as opposed to liposomal. You need less because it's more effective. It gets into your system quicker. The melatonin is encapsulated in a phospholipid, a fat, and it's instant absorption. Tongue in, go.
Okay.
If you take, that's the biggest, the best supplement for those that can't fall asleep within 5 minutes. Yeah. It is. If you can stay awake half an hour after taking that, there's something seriously wrong with your circadian rhythm. But majority of the time, that is, people are out. Yeah. But I would then take melatonin alongside the right time zone. So obviously, if I'm coming back, time it for when you go to bed.
My experience, I used to travel a lot for business to the States, and I actually used to suffer more on the East Coast trips. Yeah. So going to North Carolina, places like that. And it would take me 5 days to recover, by which time I was then flying back again.
Yeah.
And then I would have the same thing coming back. I recently flew to New Zealand, which was a 26-hour journey and 13 hours out, and actually had the least jet lag that I've ever had. And I think it was this case of actually the journey just completely throws you out.
Right.
And we landed at breakfast there and just went straight into New Zealand time, and I don't remember ever thinking I'm out here. It was just so far out that your body actually is capable of coping.
So. Interesting you talk about being flown out for work and things when you're obviously working with IBM. I have a mate and we were talking about it, and I think it should be outlawed, but he gets flown out to New York, he spends a night and comes back. That kind of time zone change is not good for your body. That I don't know how pilots deal with it. Maybe they have a certain schedule where they're on and off, but it is not good for your health to do that. I think that kind of thing within a business, I don't know how you'd prove it is unhealthy, because obviously it would need to kill someone or something. But I think that kind of practice should be outlawed. If you fly somebody out to New York, they should be there for a week, maybe 2 weeks. I mean, most people don't need to fly anywhere nowadays. You've got Skype and things like that. You shouldn't need the face-to-face interaction. I get it's good for business, but come on, we're 2020 now. But that kind of practice, I think, is horrendous. And even just trying different tips and tricks with nutrients, I think if I flew out like that, I would try and stay, and I knew I was coming back that early, I'd stay on UK time zone. So I was there and back in 2 days. Stay on a different time. You're the one you're returning back to quickly.
Okay. second area you talk about is building habits. I'll give you some of the clues. So the blue light,
Right.
building a routine, having naps, and obviously changing your nutrition, which is started to touch on. Blue light.
Blue light.
Blue light reduction. And I'm
So
assuming you're meaning phones and
So it's screens.
Screens.
Screens. It's not just screens. Any artificial light is blue light.
Mm-hmm.
So you could argue, or there could be an argument to be made, that zero blue light exposure or zero artificial light exposure is good for you. Okay. One of the things I did with my daughter, and obviously my wife was in on this, was she did not know what artificial light was until she was 3 months old.
Okay.
I wanted, and again, I wouldn't say it necessarily worked as best as you think, but she slept okay at times and not at other times. But we didn't put the TV on in front of her, wasn't allowed, and we didn't put any lights on. Obviously, it was in the summer, so it was quite easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would wind down as it got to certain hours. So no artificial light is necessarily good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Even the light we've got in this little dingy office, everything should be natural sunlight. But blue light is again, as we spoke about, getting into optic nerve and then waking you up via your SCN, your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which then activates your brain and throws off your circadian rhythm. So there's no light that's good for you. So the habits we talk about is minimizing blue light exposure, so you can switch your phone off or stop looking at your phone for 1 hour before bed. Walker talks about it needs to be 4 hours before bed.
4.
And again, 4 hours is like, again, I have a client, you've got people that want optimal and improvement.
Yeah.
Well, you try and get success with them to then gain influence and then push them towards 2 hours. Because it's all or nothing. If I told you 4 hours and it's the first time you've come into me, you'd be like, not happening. I've got to work, I've got to do this. So nowadays you can get blue light blockers. There's one that's very popular called f.lux that you can just install on your computer. Similar things you can do. I think iPhones have blue light blockers in them. My recommendation that people forget about is I actually block the blue light all day. So don't have it to just come down, because you can set the f.lux or your phone to block blue light as you get to the evening.
Okay.
Zero blue light is good for you. Set it up so it's blocked all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
People come in and they think my screen's broken because it's on all the time. It's like an orangey tint as opposed to that blue light tint, that pure white light, which again is not great for you. So habits such as that. You can also get blue light blocking glasses, which are orange tinted sunglasses.
Okay.
Often you're only wearing these at home. You can look like an idiot at home, no one's going to see you, so it's fine. Again, it's a one and done investment, and then it's just developing the habit of, as soon as you come in, you pop them on. I like even better with them because I wear my actual glasses and then the glasses over the glasses, so I look really cool when I wear them. But my wife's already married me, so she's stuck with me.
Yeah. She's past worrying.
Yeah, we're past caring.
Naps. You've touched a little bit on naps. Mm-hmm. Do you want to add anything else?
I'm not sure what to add, to be honest.
I think you've probably covered most of it. The concept of anything's
better than nothing. Again, it's a habit. The biggest thing is I can say, get in the habit, stick with it. You will feel groggy. You just have to get up, get moving. Within 5 to 10 minutes, you feel like a new man or woman. Mm-hmm. That's usually the biggest thing.
And I'm going to throw back again something about habit forming that we talked about in previous podcasts. Habits take a long time to break and make. So for those of us that are embarking on this sort of change, it's not going to happen overnight. See what I did there. But expect to be able to do it in small chunks. And
a lot of them are one and done.
Mm-hmm.
Blackout blinds you buy once. All you got to remember is pull it. Earthing sheet you buy once. You got to just put it on your bed. It's done. So those one and dones, go through the stuff you can do without any effort, no habit building, no thought. You just do, and then pick one habit and nail it until it's automatic. You're enjoying it.
So things like going to bed at certain times, you can do that, but then
routine.
You have a Friday night out or a Saturday night out. Don't get phased by that. Build that into the routine.
I remember Charles saying, this is back in probably 2010, and he said he asked a sleep expert, what is the one thing? If I could tell everybody one thing and it would improve, everybody's quality, and it's waking time. Always wake up at the same time. So if you go out, let's say your normal sleeping time, you go to bed at 10, you wake up at 6. Let's say it's a Friday night, as you just mentioned, you go out, you get in at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Still get up at 6. Still keep your waking time the same, that's key.
Yeah.
And I talk about it with clients. I'm like, do you sleep in on the weekend? They go, yes. And I go, okay. So during the week, you're waking up in London time. And on the weekend, you're waking up mid-Atlantic or New York. So it's like creating a mini jet lag in your body, and the body doesn't like that. So keep your waking time constant. And if your evening time has to be different, you need to make up. They talk about making up the sleep debt. They've kind of rubbish that. There's no sleep debt. You cannot make it up. But naps will then help refresh you the day after that.
Okay. Nice. The last area you cover is nutrients. From what I can remember, certainly magnesium was very high in the...
Magnesium is of imperative importance for most people. You can get blood tested for this, and you can figure out where your magnesium levels are. It's usually an easy sell to a client, because anybody who's active, so magnesium is used in the Krebs cycle, so your energy cycle, so within muscular contractions. So the more active person, they might need more. The more you sweat, again, you might need more. The more carbohydrates you eat, you're going to need more. The more toxic you might be, should you have a toxicity issue, again, you might need more. It's usually an easy sell to people, but it's a huge one that people are deficient on. I think there's some statistic like 95% of people are magnesium deficient based on functional medicine parameters. Favorite magnesiums in the article, it will talk about magnesium threonate, which is very brain healthy, because it's found a lot in the cerebrospinal fluid, and that's the fluid that when you sleep encapsulates and makes the brain float, and that's how the brain detoxes. I think that it'll be explained in the article in more depth. Magnesium glycinate, it's magnesium attached to a glycine molecule. Apparently it's really good for cortisol, so dampening cortisol, bringing the cortisol levels down. And then one that's probably not in the article is magnesium glycerophosphate, which is a GABA promoting magnesium, so it helps GABA levels in the brain. So GABA, so we've got again 4 main neurotransmitters, 2 excitatory, 2 inhibitory. So we'll talk about the inhibitory one, serotonin and GABA, GABA. The best analogy I've heard on those two is from Christian Thibodeau, so you can look at his stuff. He's really good with neurotransmitters in the brain and how it works. Is you've got GABA is your handbrake in the car, and serotonin is your foot brake. You obviously need different amounts of both and balance, but a lot of people, I see huge deficiencies in GABA, huge across the board. I'm not talking one. It will always be the highest deficiency in the Braverman neurotransmitter test, all the time. If that number is above 5, then you should be taking something that would help maybe support GABA and figure out obviously why your GABA is being depleted. But it will help the brain kind of... They talk about GABA being the relaxing and calm, like Zen-like feeling. So people, they lack that, hence why anxiety can be...
Just being able to switch off.
Yeah, being able to switch off, being able to give less of a shit. I know there's a skill set there as well. So there's a mindset element as well as a nutrition element. But scientifically, you can look at the GABA levels. It's a questionnaire. You can't test your neurotransmitter levels. I don't think they allow a needle going into your brain and looking at things.
Not yet.
No, but I don't think you can test them accurately in a blood test. It's a waste of time. So the most accurate way of doing it is the Braverman Nature Assessment, which is very readily available online. I put all my clients through it. You can only do it once for the dominance, but you can look at your deficiencies over and over. The issue you've got is you need to answer obviously as truthfully as you can, and people's perception of themselves is not always correct.
No.
I may feel I sleep great, or may feel I do that, and then you answer the question slightly wrong, or you're biased on it, so you have to kind of try and sit back and be as truthful as possible.
You mentioned earlier is it Inositol?
Yeah, Inositol. Yeah.
What's tell me more about that.
It's a powder. I mainly use it for. It kind of has a replenishment effect on all of your neurotransmitters. So the brain's all about balance. You want to have balance across the board, which is why I don't recommend certain brain nutrients, because it's too much of one thing, and not everyone's individualized. So it needs to match whatever your deficiencies are. But inositol is one that I would look at as fairly neutral. The biggest reason for inositol depletion is usually high sugar intake. So sugar depletes it. So if you have a carbohydrate-rich diet, whether it's because you're taking in lots of carbs because you're trying to build muscle, you might be really active, or that's the lifestyle you like, then I would definitely recommend a decent level of that. I'll tell you a funny story on that. So with inositol, you want to make sure that you titrate up. If in doubt, take 1/8 of a teaspoon. Small dose, really tiny dose. And I told a guy this, and he was a bodybuilder. Meathead, basically. Okay. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. He took 2 heaped teaspoons of it. Don't know what kind of grammage it is, but it was way more than he should have taken. And he came in the next day and said, oh mate, or next time I had a consult with him, I was like, how do you do the inositol? I was like, funny you should say that. I had the gnarliest dream. I was like, okay, so what happened? And he said his dream involved him being in a full-on war with weapons and guns with the Teletubbies.
Excellent.
So he had very, very lucid dreams.
Did he win?
I don't know, I didn't ask him. I was too busy laughing at him. I was like, dude, you need to listen to the instructions. And if you can withstand that, there's a benefit. But
yeah,
I've had it, and it's caused really vivid nightmares before. So it's one that I wouldn't mega dose unless you're ready to.
And so, what benefits does it actually then give me?
Replenishment of neurotransmitters and deeper sleep.
Right, so it's the deeper sleep.
The deeper sleep's the main one, obviously. If deeper sleep, if you don't get nightmares, or if you don't have wars with Teletubbies.
Yes, good. Get the balance right.
Yeah,
excellent. I know personally, I went through a tough time a couple of years ago, and our friend James turned up on my doorstep with some magnesium for me, some inositol, I think also some thiamine, something like that. Theanine, that's the name.
L-theanine probably.
And
THEA.
I didn't have a bad night's sleep at all. In fact, I haven't had a bad night's sleep since.
It switches you off. It can help promote switching off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm aware of what you went through to be able to switch off, and because if you can't switch off, you can't process what you're going through.
Yeah, the rest of the day becomes impossible to.
You can't process thoughts. Your day, your point to exertion will be quicker. So normally you'd wake up at 8 and then you'd get through till 6, quite alert. But you would have crashed at maybe midday with that kind of thing, that kind of stress. So yeah, I'm not surprised. That was a good move of James to do that.
Very, very beneficial. Always thank him for that. So we've covered the 3 areas. We've covered why sleep is good. I always put you on the spot here. So here I am starting out. Give me 2 or 3 things that you absolutely say just start doing these, and you're going to start seeing benefits from. So
for the sleep, I would say blackout blind, as in pitch black. That has to be of paramount importance.
Yeah.
I would say the melatonin drops as one supplement, and I would say the habit of sleeping and waking time. Okay. So standardize it. I tell clients to standardize it within an hour. So if you go to bed at 9, you can go to bed between say 9 and 10. That's your hour.
Yeah.
It means you're going to wake up between 6 and 7.
And standardise that waking up time as well.
Both, yeah.
Do you recommend alarm clocks, or let the body naturally?
We don't live in an ideal world, but ideally you'd wake up naturally. Some people have early starts and they need that,
of course,
that insurance, so to speak. But a lot of the time I speak to my clients and I ask them, do you have an alarm clock, and do you use it to wake up, or does it wake up? Do you wake up just before it? A lot of the time you wake up just before it. You ever missed a flight? You know when you have to wake up for the flight, it's in the back of your mind. There is a subconscious element.
I wake up hours before if I've got something.
Yeah.
Although when I used to set an alarm, I would wake on it was a mechanical one, and as the hour hand passed over the alarm hand, I could hear that, and that was enough to wake me.
Different noise.
And the alarm never went off because I would hit it before that. But that, I think, is, like you say, it's the routine. It wasn't actually the sound, it was the routine was waking me up.
Sure. But yeah, those 3. So pitch black, standardise your sleeping and waking time, and use the liposomal melatonin. It's also very cost effective. It's very cheap. You don't have to use a lot. So
and that sounds like the beauty of this, that we can get really big benefits from relatively small changes and build those into our life pattern.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much, Tom. Another excellent podcast. See you next week.
It's been a pleasure.